What is going on, everybody? John Impemba here with Andrew Cooper. Welcome into the Fantasy Salon Quick Out Fantasy Football Show. It is week 10 of the NFL season. Cooper, my guy, man, how we doing?
Doing great, dude. Doing great. Honestly, I'm having the best year I've had in a while playing fantasy football. Takes here and there as always, but my teams are doing well. Except Scott Fishbowl really struggling over there. Deshaun Watson to thank for that. But yeah, doing all right, man. How about you, man? How are your squads doing?
Yeah, I'm not doing too well in Scott Fishbowl either. I'm not going to say that you and I might have been a little distracted that day with what was going on during the Scott Fishbowl drafts, covering the draft, doing what we were doing, and then also trying to focus on the draft board here with Scott Fishbowl. Not great for me. I did send out a tweet yesterday, one of those like reasons to never give up. One of the leagues that I'm in that I've actually contended with pretty regularly, including the only two-time champion in that league for as long as I've been in there. Started 0-3 this year. I was getting a lot of crap in the group chat, being like, I can't believe you're struggling like this. Well, I've rattled off 6 straight wins since then, and I am now up to second place. So for those of you who maybe get down early, and we always say no reason to quit, always continue, always try to work, make moves, do whatever you can, because you just never know which way the things will break for you as the season moves along. But if you just give up, if you stop setting your lineups, if you stop making moves, you never give yourself that opportunity to kind of bounce back. And it just kind of helped getting some of those matchups, making some of the right moves. Derek Carr has been a great pivot for me, or somebody who drafted Trevor Lawrence. We've talked a lot about that. And then I've been my early wide receiver strategy has paid off with AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb, and Amari Cooper all basically carrying that lineup for me there. So again, for a lot of people that get discouraged earlier on the season, there are plenty of reasons to keep playing, and I now am one of those success stories. Hopefully, come season end.
I always play to win, even if I'm out of it. Like too much ego maybe. And I also you go over to Yahoo and you look at your name there and there's like a little number and your trophy that's either like gold or silver or platinum or whatever. I just always want to win, man. I always want to win. So I never quit. I never give up. But I know some people get frustrating, but hey, never give up. Never give up.
Yeah, never give up. Exactly. So week 10 is a wild week though here. We have more bye weeks. We talk a lot about like Buyemageddon and yada, yada, yada. Well, this week, Coop, no Chiefs, no Dolphins, no Eagles. Those are some. I think there's no Rams too, but nobody cares about them. No Patrick Mahomes, no Tua, no Tyreek, no Jalen Hurts, no Travis Kelce, no AJ Brown. I mean, those are substantial contributors to fantasy football rosters, and they are all out this week here, Coop.
And I warned people that, I looked at all the elite tight ends and all these people I thought they were like safe and all set. And I said, hey, by the way, we have 3-week span coming up here where a bunch of the tight ends we're kind of relying on are all going to have bye weeks. And guess what? The way you think it might happen, where it's like, oh, you'll just add somebody off the waivers. These other teams that have a tight end for a bye, they go out and they pick a guy up and they don't necessarily turn around and drop that guy. Oftentimes they're either lazy or they want to keep them. And so last week you had Laporta on bye, you had Ingram on bye, you had Kittle on bye, and 3 teams went out and added tight ends off waivers, and a lot of those teams didn't drop those players. So I see a lot of folks out there with Travis Kelce looking around and scrapping for tight ends now, especially
doing the John Travolta, kind of
looking around
like where's
the Dallas Goedert owners are in the worst spot because not only is he on bye, but he broke his arm. So now you're looking for at the worst possible time where all these other teams picked up a second tight end. Now you have to find your starting tight end rest of season. So the Dallas Goedert rosters are in a tough spot.
Yeah, I agree with you. Some other top stories here from week 10 before we get into our weekly matchup breakdown here. The Josh Dobbs thing is just absolutely wild. And now we've had this back-to-back seasons where a quarterback gets traded to start the week with a new team, barely has 24 hours, 48 hours within the organization, has to come in, play a game, then win a game. Baker Mayfield did it last year for the Rams. Josh Dobbs came in for the Vikings this week, did not expect to play, had some things memorized. He apparently told the coaching staff, like, hey, like, I already memorized your playbook because I'm like an aerospace engineer and this wasn't that hard for me to figure out. And he came in that game and drove them down and ended up performing well and leading them to a comeback victory there. So a pretty wild scene. And if you're now someone that has a Jordan Addison or TJ Hawkinson or a eventually returning Justin Jefferson, you have to feel probably a little bit better with the way Dobbs performed there on the spot.
Yeah, that was impressive, man. He must have went to a different rocket science school than Matt Patricia.
Yeah, a good one, maybe.
A good one, yeah.
Tennessee, right? Tennessee is better than the North Dakota Institute of Technology or something like that, right?
That's right, dude. Yeah, I'm fired up for Dobbs. And folks, we see you guys in the chat. George, Discipline, what's happening, guys? We'll definitely hit on your questions. We're just hitting on a couple news items real quick, and but we'll definitely jump on those. But yeah, Dobbs, I'm fired up, man, because I was worried about TJ Hawkinson. George, I see your question in the chat on TJ Hawkinson. You look at Dobbs, man, and the fact that he was able to come out and ball in the first game is great news, because we watched him in Arizona. He loved throwing to the tight end, man. His last game over there, he threw 14 times to Trey McBride. And I tell you what, I like Trey McBride, but TJ Hawkinson at this stage in his career is on a higher level. So I'm excited about it. And yeah, you got to hold both Kincaid and Hawkinson at this stage, because Kincaid's got a bye week coming up. I mean, if you can trade Kincaid for a running back or wide receiver and maybe just and just roll with Hawkinson, then I would do that. But you still have to worry about that bye for Kincaid. I mean, well, actually, they both have the same bye week, so yeah. I would, that's sorry about that. Yeah, so I would definitely try and move one of them. The thing with Kincaid and Hawk is don't trade one for a tight end, because if you trade one for a tight end, you're only going to use that tight end for 1 week. So don't do like a 1-for-1 tight end trade. I would go out and trade one for a running back or wide receiver that can affect your lineup for playoffs and for the rest of the season. And then I would go out and just get a fill in for that week. If you can hold both or if nobody is offering you anything that's worthwhile, then just hold them. But
yeah, I mean, both of those guys are startable right now. I mean, you could probably double flex a tight end and one in your flex, one in your tight end spot. At this point, the way Kincaid isn't playing, we expect the volume for Hawkinson. Obviously, we don't know how deep your team is. We don't know the positions and whatnot you have, but both of those guys are startable and, performing at a wide receiver 3 level, wide receiver 2 level, sometimes in full PPR. So, there's a good chance that you could be able to fit both of those guys in your roster. You don't have to just pick one or the other to play. If the matchups dictate, play both.
Yeah, and for the other question for Discipline, I personally, I'm a conservative fantasy gamer, so I'm probably going to start Lockett this week. I trust Lockett to go out there and play well against Washington. I'm still a little hesitant about Dobbs fully learning the playbook and embracing the playbook, and he's going up against a pretty tough defense in New Orleans, and KJ Osborne's banged up, so now you're going to get Marshawn Lattimore on Addison. I just think it's, long term, if Dobbs really picks it up and JJ stays out and KJ Osborne stay out, then it's great for Addison. But for this week in particular, it's a little scary, is it not, John?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, listen, it was a great matchup anyways going up against Washington here for Lockett, so I would have probably leaned in that direction regardless. We know how bad the corners are for the Commanders there, and if it wasn't for Jalen Reagor and Juju Smith-Schuster being the 2 starting wide receivers for New England last week, some more plays might have been made with the way those guys are just dropping footballs all week for Mac Jones. So I do think that you'll see Geno probably have a little bit more success this week throwing to Metcalf, throwing to Lockett in those matchups there for sure. Some other notable news here. Kyler Murray is expected to return this week, already announced as the team starter at home here this weekend. James Conner had his 21-day window activated, so we could see both returning this week against the Atlanta Falcons. Some reports right out of the gate here. Gannon is saying that Kyler Murray has no mobility issues, and they expect him to run as usual. Now, It's great to hear. We'll see if it's put into practice or not. But if that is the case, you're looking at Kyler Murray ceiling potential for this week. What, QB8, QB7, like a high, a startable QB in fantasy this week, you have to think?
Yeah. So, it's his first game back. So you got that. You have to factor that in. And then the other thing is that, historically, if you take all the quarterbacks in the history of football and sort them by top points per game in fantasy football all time, Kyler Murray is top 5. Right. But you have to remember that during that period, Cliff Kingsbury was desperately trying to hang on to his job. They traded for DeAndre Hopkins. They were really going for it, whereas this team is built as more of like a bridgier team. They let DeAndre Hopkins leave. So he doesn't necessarily have those weapons, but I think that if he's running even 80% of the way he used to when healthy here,
All it
then
takes is one rushing touchdown out of your quarterback to have like a top 12 week. So
exactly. We saw it all last year with Justin Fields, with rookie
Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones did not need to throw touchdowns to be a top 10 fantasy quarterback. So
he threw 15 touchdowns last year.
Yeah, so,
rookie Josh Allen had a 52% completion percentage, and he was the top.
And listen,
top
Tyler Brown's good, and Trey McBride, believe it or not, I actually think is sneaky stud. I think that dude is going to be really, really good when given the opportunity there. So listen, exciting news. Maybe that offense comes a little bit better. They're at home. They get Atlanta. I know we've talked a bit about the Atlanta defense and David Terrell and things like that there, but we've also just saw them lose to Josh Dobbs, who had 1 day experience learning a playbook.
Right.
So maybe that there's some leaky.
We're gonna hit on that game. We're gonna hit on that game eventually. Let's get through the news. Hit the questions.
Daniel Jones torn ACL. Obviously, a big one there in that same game. The Raiders won with their new head coach there in Pierce. There were still some issues with Devontae Adams' workload. Josh Jacobs dominated there. So we still got to figure out what's going to happen with the Raiders. But Giants are going against the Cowboys. They got DeVito and they signed Matt Barkley. So not great news there. And then Dallas Goedert broke his arm for some significant fantasy news there. But Coop, us Patriots fans, we have to at least touch on what's going on with their defense. Quarterback J.C. Jackson, who they traded for, had a good first game or two, is now got benched last week to start the game for being late to team meetings, and now isn't even being brought to Germany because the team is questioning his reliability, which is never what you want to hear.
Nah, dude, that's crazy that they didn't even bring him. Just, it's but Belichick's that way, dude. And the veterans on the team, they fully embrace that. Like, if you see what Mark Andrews said, he was like, hey, you know what? Reliability is everything here. Like, you have to depend on each other. That's how people get hurt. That's how you lose games. And Bill Belichick has always said that availability is the best ability. So if this guy's not showing up for meetings, he's not dependable. Why even bring him to Germany? You know what? It's extra seat on the plane. So what are you going to do? The Patriots are kind of a disaster, and I'm rooting for them to lose as a Patriots fan so they can get a new quarterback. So, yeah, good. Leave everybody home. Leave Mark Andrews at home. Leave David Andrews at home. Leave everybody back home.
Agreed. Before we get into the questions again here, let's go ahead and get some information. I guess we have some potentially breaking news here. The Vikings have designated Justin Jefferson to return, opening his practice window. I think it's still a long shot potentially for him to return this week based off some of the information that was coming out earlier this week. But again, something to at least to monitor the situation here. If Justin Jefferson is active this week, you would obviously play him. I would imagine you'd be on some level of a snap count limitation, but you're not going to not put Justin Jefferson in your lineup if he is active. So continue to monitor that throughout the week. Of course, you guys have the Alarm Fantasy Football Show tomorrow. You have Coop's Fantasy Fiasco on Friday, Brits Blitz on Friday, and Howard Bender has all your updated news for the playbook. And then Coop and I will be live Sunday giving you all that inactive information as well. Coop, do you want to hit some questions?
It makes all the sense in the world, though, to just activate them now. If you really think about it, because you have week 10, 11, 12, right? By that, this team's 5-4. By that point, you'll know if you're in the mix or not. And then week 13 after that is their bye week. So basically, week 12 comes around. Even if you don't activate him and play him, week 12 comes around and you just say, hey, you know what? We're going to keep him on the roster. And you pull him up to the roster. You go to bye week anyway. And then he's back for week 14 and you play football. If the team loses these next 3 games and you're sitting there and you're pretty much out of the playoffs, then you say, okay, you know what? We're just not even going to activate him and we'll just let him go on season-ending IR. So it's the news doesn't necessarily mean, oh my God, he's back. It's kind of like, might as well, right?
Well, right, and like you said, it gives them also the option to really activate him whenever they want, right?
Whenever
so the window's open, whenever they feel like he's ready to go, you don't have to do any sort of paperwork. It's already there. So
it's already there.
Ready to go. Let's answer a couple questions and then we'll jump into our breakdown here, Coop. Okay.
Let's do it.
Alrighty, so we got the Kincaid one already done. Let's see. Would you start Fields or Goff? Well, we don't know if Fields is going to play, but say we do know Fields is going to play. Do you like Fields against Carolina or Goff this week?
I think it's just flat out like Goff. Like, even if he's good to go, even if Fields is playing, obviously we're worried about his effectiveness with the thumb with Fields. Mm-hmm. And if it were just any run-of-the-mill week, then I would say, hey, you know what, try Fields. But Goff is in my opinion, the matchup of the week, right? With the Chargers and the over-under is like 48.5. So I'm just throwing Goff Just go Goff.
Goff is where I'm going as well. They're just Fields wasn't good before the thumb injury. Now he has a thumb injury on a short week, so it's not like he's even getting a full practice in here. He's it's a short week there, so no thanks for me there. C-Dog wants us to pick 3. Chuba, Ridley, Evans, Cooper, and Debo. We're already doing some start sits on a Wednesday here, Coop. A lot of information can come and go on this one here, but Chuba obviously plays tomorrow. So do you like Hubbard as the starting running back against the Bears? It is a great matchup for him.
Yeah, picking 3 here. I don't know if I would necessarily want to go with Debo there. I mean, you got some bad matchups here. Ridley's got the 49ers.
Cooper's got Baltimore.
Which is
I'm locking in Mike Evans. I like Tampa Bay a lot this week.
I like that.
So I think
you do go
in that mix.
I think you do go Chuba against the Bears and Evans here, and then I really liked what I saw from Deshaun Watson last week. I think I would go Amari Cooper, man. Okay. I think there's some upside there.
I mean, if you believe the fact that the 49ers pass defense isn't in a great shape, Calvin Ridley is right there.
Yeah, so you know what? That is the question of the day, man. That's the question of the day. It might be Ridley. Did the 49ers
figure anything out during their bye week? Or are they going to go back to giving up 303 scores to opposing quarterbacks,
Right. And I guess the over-under in that game is, 8 more points are expected to be scored. The implied point total is a lot higher for the Jags. Go with Ridley.
Yeah, go with Ridley there. So some additional news. Derek Stingley Jr., the quarterback for the Texans, has been activated to return too. So could see some improved pass defense in Houston coming their way. Let's see here. We got Freddie with a trade question. Would you trade Waddle and Saquon for Eckler? I still got Tyreek, Brown, and Evans. Probably. I mean, what's Saquon going to be with Tommy DeVito? And you already have Tyreek, so sure.
And Waddle's got dealing with that back issue, man. I don't like that. He leaves every game for a little bit.
And plus, this week you can't play Waddle. He's on a bye, so get the player you can start, right? Play Eckler. So that's where I would go there. Alex says he was offered Javonte for Hopkins.
Yes. I like Javonte. I like the way he's trending up. We'll talk about him when we get to the Broncos game today. But
Will Levis, though, announced starting quarterbacks, brought some new life to DeAndre Hopkins.
Hooray.
Alex, it all depends on what your situation, obviously, in your roster looks like as well. There.
I like them both. John, you were such a Javonte guy. What happened to you?
Still am. Have no problem, but I want to know what it is.
You also became a Hopkins guy. That's what happened.
Hopkins was literally a corpse until Will Levis entered the picture, and all of a sudden now he's catching footballs and scoring touchdowns. So that matters in fantasy.
I like that.
But I will say the last game that Javonte Williams played before the bye was his best game all season, so it could just be a launch point for him.
I'm saying. And I was saying, John, I like that sweatshirt. Where'd you get that one?
The wife got it for me. It's a little full zip. It was back in the day when we did full green screen scoop, so I couldn't wear a green Celtic shirt because it would just disappear. She had to go long and far to find a non-green Celtic. So this is gray and black, and it worked on a green screen. So
dude, I like that. I've actually found my sweatshirt. That was the missing sweatshirt.
Was it your mistake or her mistake?
It was. I would go and say, in Spanish, there actually is no assigning of blame. You say you don't say that John broke the lamp. You say that the lamp broke, right? Sure. So it was more of the sweatshirt was lost situation.
Yeah.
It was in a wash basket that I looked through, but it was inside of a fitted sheet. I mean,
that's fair. That's fair.
I would classify that as no one's fault.
Your clothes, that's actually I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't do the laundry in my house.
I fold it on Sunday. That's a little life hack. When you watch football, offer to your wife to fold some laundry. And I sit there and I fold it. You know what I mean? With my eyes not looking at the laundry at all, but we get it. Some of the socks might not match, but we get it done. Right?
I do the cooking. She does.
We get those points.
Back to PPR. For Chargy here. Downs. He has Downs, but not sure about the knee. He also has Rashid Shaheed, and Dalton Kincaid is available. So would you rather play Shaheed or Kincaid, not knowing that Downs is going to be active?
I would just start Kincaid. He's been great. He's catching everything. He's catching everything.
High and low floor with Shaheed too.
Yeah, 90. Kincaid had a 90.5% completion rate coming into the game last week. If he caught 9 of 10 targets, his completion percentage would have gone down. So instead, he came out and caught 10 of 11, and it even slightly went up. Like, this dude catches everything.
Mm-hmm. Next question here that we have, Discipline wants to know. He's 3-6. He's got Stroud, Herbert, Gibbs, Eckler, Addison, O'Clock, blah, 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 blah. What should I do? I don't know. PPR. I'm new.
I mean, you got a pretty damn good team.
Yeah, I mean, I think
I don't know how you're 3-6.
Yeah, Are you in our Discord? Just like send us what your starting lineup's
Yeah.
going to be. It's kind of hard to like tell you what to do because you're basically playing all of those guys there. So
Where I would try and make a move is I'm a little bit worried about Dalton Schultz. That's the one, and we'll talk about that today. You
yeah,
already have Taysom Hill, so I think I would try, even if you got to use Schultz next week and then see if you can trade him. But
yeah,
we'll talk about that.
yeah. I got a great team. I don't know, just unlucky probably.
Right.
Let's see here. Mirren wants to. I traded Josh Allen and Mark Andrews for Tyreek, David Montgomery, Ferguson, and Russell Wilson. 2 QB super flex. He traded the 2 best players maybe in that deal.
Yeah.
But Montgomery, if he comes back, is obviously pretty elite. We know Tyreek is really good, but he's on a bye this week, so that doesn't really help you
Yeah.
much.
And Ferguson's been fine. He's been ramped up a little bit. I like
Yeah.
him, So if all those guys go into your lineup, then I like it.
My problem is that Montgomery and Tyreek aren't playing this week. So like you
no.
made a trade and you got 2 guys that can't help you this week. So
yeah. Well, if you have a good record, then it's a good trade.
Dino, which defense? Browns, Packers, or Raiders? I think I picked up the Packers in a league. What Green Bay playing this week? Green Bay is playing Steelers. They're on the road. Yeah,
I like that. I like that matchup.
The Browns against the Ravens is. I mean, the Browns are really good. They're really good.
Yeah.
What was the other one? The Raiders. Raiders have the Jets. Would you do the
Jets.
Raiders at home versus the Jets here?
I would, but I wouldn't drop the Browns to start anybody. So
No.
if you have to drop the Browns to do it, then just start the Browns. Even doing the rankings, I couldn't find a way to rank the Browns outside the top like 5 or 6 or 7.
I was going to say, yeah, they're too good.
Yeah.
Let's see. Would you trade Barkley for Ridley? A lot of people giving up Barkley. I don't know if I would do.
Nah, just hang on to him. Yeah, too valuable.
Twitch gang calling him out. Would you trade Mostert for Monty? Yes, actually.
For sure.
Because when the Dolphins come off the bye, I think Devin A-Chain is available to come back. And then at that point, I don't know what that rotation is going to look like with A-Chain, Wilson, and Mostert all active. So at least Monty's going to get his role. What Dan Campbell came out and said yesterday, like we don't envision giving Jahmyr Gibbs 60 snaps, right? Like,
right.
As great as he's been, they're pretty committed to giving Montgomery the early role there. So I would do that deal. Rest of season, Bijan or Waddle. I'm still going to go Bijan.
Bijan, yeah. And let's get into these game breakdowns because
last question, then we'll get into it. Last question, Rex. Keep it question. You want 2 of 3 around value. 2 in the 6th, Young in the 14th, Pick in the 17th, Murray in the 17th.
2 of 3.
I definitely want to keep Tua probably in the 6th. He feels like he's way out producing that value. I don't like Bryce Young, Pickett.
If it's a 2 QB league, then just keep Kyler Murray.
Yeah, keep Kyler Murray. I'm not sold on Bryce Young or Kenny Pickett. So
no,
keep Tua, keep Murray. You'll be good to go there. All right, Coop, new part of the show here today before we do get into our weekly breakdowns. A new sponsor to the show, Sleeper Picks. A lot of you are already using Sleeper, I am sure, for your fantasy football needs. But right now, Sleeper also is offering picks contests. If you go to fantasyalarm.com/sleeper on your mobile device, you'll get a deposit match right now up to $100 when you use promo code VAULT3. So you want to go ahead here. I'm going to throw the QR code up on the screen for everybody. Scan the QR code here on the screen or go to fantasyalarm.com/sleeper on your phone. Get a 100% deposit match up to $100 when you use promo code VAULT3. Going to fantasyalarm.com/sleeper or scanning the QR code should autofill the VAULT3 promo code, but if not, enter that in, have your opportunity, Coop, to 100x your plays this week. I think if you do like an 8 or a 9 pick card, you have a chance to 100x your wager. So check out Sleeper Picks today. Coop, let's give our favorite Sleeper Picks for the Thursday night football contest. How's that sound?
Yeah, it sounds good, man. I think they have they call it a pick on sale over there, a little bonus one they throw in there, right?
Yeah,
so
do.
we got a pick on.
There we go.
We got a pick on sale. They say 99% off. So whatever they would have said, it seems like even more than 99% because you would think that Bryce Young's passing yard number would be set higher than like 100 or even like 50, but they have it set at 0.5 pass yards, which of course you select more on that one. And that's kind of a freebie. So the more picks you do, the more it multiplies how much you win. And they're giving you a freebie here, Bryce Young. So make sure you get that one in there.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
What's your pick for Thursday Night Football here, Coop?
My pick is, and this is a guy that I've been telling people not to use all year. I've been telling people to drop to waivers, to not roster. But I think this week, Hayden Hurst, they have his number at 14 and a half yards. It's been a three-way split amongst the tight ends. So you have to keep an eye on the news here. But Steven Sullivan came out when he came back from IR. He's been kind of being worked in, and he got a few receptions last week, but then he hurt his shoulder. He has not practiced yet this week. So we'll keep an eye on him. If he's not playing, which I don't think at this stage he will, he hasn't played practice, through Tuesday, and they play tomorrow. If he's out, then I think Hayden Hurst can pretty easily get 14 and a half yards. So I'm going to go more on that number for Hayden Hurst.
I like that. Again, you're right. A guy that we thought maybe early on would be in for some targets. He actually had a pretty decent week one for fantasy, and then he just kind of disappeared there. Adam Thielen showed up. Basically, I'm going to grab every target that's on the field here, but a good spot for him. For my pick here, we're going to go at Montez Sweat, more than half a sack. Bryce Young has been sacked 14 times over the last 3 weeks. That is a lot. That is a lot of times being sacked. We know rookie quarterbacks, when they get in the pocket, they get a little frazzled. It closes in on them. And we obviously, the Montez Sweat is one of the elite pass rushers in the NFL, looking at making a good impression on his new team, following that trade, signing that extension here. So I think he gets after the quarterback in this game on Thursday Night Football on national TV here. So give me the Montez Sweat, more than half a sack here for this matchup.
Exactly. And this isn't like Joshua Dobbs coming in having to learn the playbook. Like Montez Sweat, of course, there are some, defensive plays for these guys, some stunts, right? There's some times you got to drop into coverage a little bit. But for the most part, it's going to be like, all right, Montez, we brought you here to sack the quarterback, so go get him, right? So Montez, I don't think it's going to be a big learning curve for him to go in and potentially do exactly what they brought him to do, which is get a sack this week. So, yeah, I love that play.
Yeah, so that's where we're at. Coop's got the Hayden Hurst, more than 14 and a half yards receiving. I got the Montez Sweat, more than half a sack. Remember, go to fantasyalarm.com/sleeper. Use promo code VAULT3. New users will get a 100% deposit match up to $100. You have to be on your mobile device to play Sleeper Picks, so make sure you scan that QR code on the screen, or again, from your mobile device, go to fantasyalarm.com/sleeper to take advantage of today's offer.
And don't forget that Bryce Young freebie. It's a free one, so get that in there.
Yeah, gotta get the Bryce Young freebie. Make it a 3-pick play. Have some fun. Make some cash here on Thursday night. Speaking of Thursday night, let's get into our game previews here. Panthers, Bears. Bears at home, given 3.5 and 38.5 game total here. Coop, what are we looking at? What's the top stories of the matchup?
Yeah, I mean, it's the big question mark, of course, is, Chuba took over the full role. Miles Sanders came back last week and kind of carved himself out a little something, more than 2 plays or whatever it was before. He ran 11 routes, was targeted on 5 of them. So it'll be interesting to see, how far he can take it. But for now, Chuba is the starting running back. Adam Thielen, you've been starting, and we learned through the last couple of weeks that DJ Chark is not a reliable option. He keeps every once in a while he'll play the full game. Every once in a while he'll rotate with Terrace Marshall. So Jonathan Mingo is probably your next best bet. He's the guy. If you play like the Thursday handcuff game where you just like throw a guy on the bench, and if he does well, you keep him, and if he doesn't, you drop him. Jonathan Mingo is a candidate for that. Now on the Bears side, it's all about Justin Fields, right, John? Like, Is he going to play? How's it going to look? It kind of changes everything for me.
It definitely changes everything. I mean, obviously we've seen for me, I think the biggest impact it's going to have is on Cole Kmet. Right. I mean, the last 2 weeks, Cole Kmet has been a monster with Tyler Bagent at quarterback. He was barely being used with Justin Fields as the quarterback. If Fields now starts, we have to sort of reevaluate where do the targets go, who becomes more valuable. DJ Moore obviously had success with Justin Fields there. Nobody was throwing to Darnell Mooney, but Cole Kmet was at least being a valuable play with Tyler Bagent there. So if Bagent is the quarterback, I think you again go back and look at Cole Kmet this week. If Bagent isn't the quarterback, though, there's probably some risk there with where we're going to see Fields throw the football.
For sure. And I will say one thing for Cole Kmet is that they were in 2 weeks ago when he had the dud game against Max Crosby, they had him stay in to block on 8 pass plays. Since then, they have gotten left tackle Braxton Jones back from IR, and I think that alone at least helps us not be as scared of complete dud games, right? So I think Cole Kmet is still going to have a floor of 3-4 targets, but you're right, John. With Bagent, he's dialed in on him. with Justin Fields. Justin Fields wants to move around. He wants to get the ball downfield. Of course, that's not going to help Kmet as much. So I'm with you. The quarterback is going to affect Kmet more than anybody else.
How are you approaching the running backs here? Miles Sanders got 24% of the offensive snaps last week, I think it was. Clearly, Chuba Hubbard's lead role, good spot against Chicago here. But we also have Khalil Herbert designated to return. Do we think you see him on the field this week?
I'm trying to approach them from a distance. I don't really have a lot of these guys. I'm trying not to play that game in DFS for sure. Because like Donta Foreman, the thing with him is he could come in and do what he does, which is run the ball really well, but he's never a threat to catch the football. So that type of player, he has a capped ceiling. Khalil Herbert's the one I'm most interested in because, when everybody was there all offseason, he earned the job and he had the job until he got hurt. So he's a guy that I like to stash, but to start him this week, you got to have some stones. So I'm just trying to avoid all of it, to be honest with you. I think Darrington Evans is also probably going to go back to being a healthy scratch.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one as well. Anything else in this matchup here, Coop?
That's it for me, man.
All right, let's move on down. We get into the 9:30 game. Germany, once again, Colts, Patriots. Gross. Patriots getting 1.5 here, 43.5 game total.
Honestly, the thing is, as even though we say gross because we're fantasy football guys, like in this environment, right? This year, 43.5 point over under with a 1.5 point spread. We could do worse. We've done way worse. You don't think you like the under? I think I like the under too, but I mean, just the idea on
Patriots
paper.
Offense has shown me nothing to think that they can score 20 points. So,
I mean, John, there's a game on the slate with a 38 point over under, and the spread is 16. So yeah. it gets gross.
We had that last week with the Bender and I. We did the no touchdowns prop on Arizona, which cashed.
The old Keith Sweat. That's what we call that one.
27-0 final. We took the under. Bender took the under. I took the -9.5, and then we were sitting there. We're like, you know what? I don't even think Arizona's going to score a touchdown this week. We hit that one too. It's like plus 330 for Arizona not to score a touchdown.
That's it, dude. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I hate that to be honest, man. You're sweating until you're never safe. You're not safe until the whistle blows.
They never cross half field. So
still though, because the thing is, sometimes what happens in those games, they take one team, the one team goes up by so much they take the starters out, and then it's just a peewee football, and nobody knows, So those games do get crazy, but I kind of like that. I mean, we'll talk about that when we get.
I don't think the Patriots. I don't know if I don't think the Patriots scored 20 points here. I'm going to take the under. I don't know who to like on New England. I mean, I guess Ramondre Stevenson looked pretty good. Pop Douglas was fine. Juju's numbers looked good, but obviously he had that ridiculous drop. Jalen Reagor couldn't catch anything. I did have Hunter Henry in my contrarian video for the week. Did find the end zone. I thought without Kendrick Bourne, they may look to the tight end a little bit more. Hunter Henry did have a kind of a good game. So, you're the matchup whiz here. Does Hunter Henry have a good spot this week?
I'll tell you what. Not only is it a good matchup, but if you go and look at last week's game, all year long, Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki have essentially been playing 50% of the routes, right? This week, they threw 47 times. Here were the leaders in routes run. Number 1, Mike Gesicki, 41 of 47. Number 2, Hunter Henry, 40 of 47. Number 3 was Pop Douglas at 39 routes. And then after that, you get into Jalen Reagor with 32, Juju with 19. So last week, at least, they went heavy on the 2 tight end sets, and kind of makes me interested in these players, man. Kind of makes me interested, especially Hunter Henry, because he has the benefit. When in doubt in that mid-range, I look at how successful are these guys versus man-to-man. How good are they in the red area when it goes full lockdown one-on-one, right? And Hunter Henry, that's the one thing that nobody can say that he's not good at. He's just very good in those one-on-one situations, and that's really helpful for the red area. So Hunter Henry is on the menu. He's on the menu.
Yeah, so good, maybe a good showdown play. Obviously, 9:30 game there. Little Hunter Henry, but again, I don't really know what to do much of this here. The last week, Jonathan Taylor. Man, the NFL coaches are the most infuriating people in the NFL. Coop, obviously, me and a lot of other people have the over rushing yards of Jonathan Taylor at 67.5. The Colts are up 14 with 8 minutes to go. Gardner Minshew threw 3 straight passes on a 3-and-out, and they didn't run the football until there was 3 minutes left to go. They got the ball back for a second drive, and Gardner Minshew kept throwing again, up 2 scores. That's supposed to be when you're grinding down the clock. You're running it out. All we needed was like 20 yards from Jonathan Taylor over the final 8 minutes of a game where they had a 2-touchdown lead, and they threw the football the entire time.
They falconed it, man.
It makes no sense. The Falcons did the opposite. I was talking to you and Bender in our group chat there. Van Jefferson started off the drive with a catch, 12 straight running plays where the Falcons are trailing in that game.
I was saying more like the Falcons Super Bowl where they if they just got like if they just ran it a little bit, but instead they threw it every time and were just doing 3 and outs. Yeah. So the Falcons.
Arthur Smith is also a nightmare. But yes, that was infuriating to see the coaching decisions there.
I will say this matchup does make for a very fun showdown slate, because a lot of times with these showdown slates, like if you get like 49ers versus Dolphins, there's only like 5 players that get the football in those 2 teams. You know what I mean? Like, so, it's like everyone's starting.
What you're saying is the fact that we don't know who's going to do anything makes it exciting.
It makes it fun, dude, because it's like
you have a different term of fun than I do.
So now there's so many. It's not fun as an analyst to like tell people who to start, but playing, it's anyone's game, man. It's anyone's game. There's so many different guys you can go to. I mean, who knows? Maybe Alec Pierce will catch a football for once in his life. Like,
so balance out. Maybe he will. I mean, I don't know. I know Colin Granson didn't do a damn thing last week.
I know. And this could be a Granson game with Josh Downs out, but I will say the guy that picked up the most snaps was Isaiah McKenzie. And we know that he's not a super megastar, but he's had some success. Killer. Kills the Patriots. Dude, he actually is amazing against the Patriots.
He's amazing.
If they put what's his name? If they put Miles Bryant on him, then he's going to have like 10 catches, because that's the matchup. So I don't know. Keep an eye on that.
Keep an eye on that one for sure. Let's get on to some more fun games here. 1 p.m. Titans Buccaneers. Will Levis named the starting quarterback moving forward, at least for now, for Tennessee, which is the right move here. I'm excited to see this one. I actually really like this matchup. Again, Will Levis in his opening start threw for 4 touchdowns. And then I told you, listen, short week, first real start against Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, felt like a really tough situation to be put into. Not a tough situation to be put into here. Full week of practice in Tampa Bay against a Buccaneers defense that just allowed 470 yards and 5 touchdowns to CJ Stroud last week. And again, Will Levis threw for 4 scores in his first start. So it's not like he's incapable of just chucking the ball downfield here. I like Will Levis. I like Tampa Bay. This is an over for me. I think 38.5 is too low. I think this is a mispriced line. Going over 38.5 here.
I'm with you on that, dude. I like that one. And yeah, Will Levis, man, at the very least, he's fun, right? He's willing to chuck it, with mixed results, of course. But I mean, I look around, there's so many boring quarterbacks that I just move Will Levis ahead of everybody, all the Mac Joneses, and then the guys that are never going to be exciting. So at least he's fun.
He's got the strongest arm. I'm putting Will Levis ahead of those guys.
Exactly, dude. He can chuck. There's no question about that. So yeah, that'll be fun. I want to ask you about the Buccaneers, because that's where there's some interesting plays. Of course, you're going to start Godwin and Evans where you got them. Baker Mayfield, like, is he going up against the Titans that you should be able to throw on? Is he in the QB1 range discussion this week?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's in there. I mean, I have him as the cover to the quarterback coach this week. So
there you go.
I'm all in on some Baker here. He's the $5,100 on DraftKings scoop. So
now, if you had to pick a pay down option to pair up with him, do you go with Trey Palmer, who's picked up a lot of extra snaps lately, or Cade Otton? Cade Otton, last 2 weeks, they've thrown dropped back to pass 90 times. He's run 86 routes. So that dude is out there running around. He's been out there running around all year, to be honest. Some games he's blocked on some pass plays, which we don't like, but last few games, man, he's getting a lot of targets. So now
we talked about that game against was it Philly? He got or Buffalo. He basically got all of his catches in the final drive of that game as they were just running out the clock essentially. But as he continues to pick up more, I don't mind it. The biggest, I think, deterrent for me a little bit with Cade Otton is just how much usage Rachaad White gets in the passing game, because a lot of those sort of like dump off intermediate underneath routes tend to go to the running back in those spots, and not always the tight end there. So I'm trying to pull up right now to see what Tennessee's DVOA against the running back pass play is here. See if maybe there's some value to attacking this spot with them here. Tennessee against the tight end is 13th
They're good. No, they've been good. They're 13th versus the tight end in raw points. They're actually 4th, and they have not let up a touchdown to. They're the
They're
only team in the
20th
league.
DVOA against running back pass plays. So
Yeah, so it's a good spot for White. The Titans are the only team in the league that have not allowed a touchdown to the tight end yet.
because
So,
wide receivers burn them too often.
but now on the flip side of that, they did trade away Kevin Byard to the
True.
Eagles. So maybe not the team. This isn't the Titans defense that faced Mark Andrews earlier this year. So there's a lot of moving parts here. I still like K. Dot, and I think he's kind of a safe option. And if one of those wide receivers were to get hurt, now he has difference making upside. So K. Dot, definitely check out your waiver wire, see if he's still floating around out there. Definitely a guy that he has some reliability to him.
Yeah, for sure. So again, I really like this matchup. I'd play anybody on Tampa Bay. Obviously, Evans is my binky, so gonna have a lot of Baker and Evans there. But obviously, on the flip side, you got Levis and Hopkins. Any interest in any other secondary receivers? I mean, Chig didn't do anything until the end of that game. Final drive, caught some balls. Treylon was okay. They had what's this? Is it Phillips? He ended up having like a pretty good game there for Tennessee. Any interest there? I have that name wrong. Is it Phillips?
It's Kyle Phillips. Yeah, it's Nick Westbrook-Ikine and Kyle Phillips, maybe in DFS at best. And Chig, like he really bailed us out. He bailed Howard out with his bet at the end of last week. But he's had some tough drops, and I don't know. It's just hard to trust him, man. So yeah, no, I'm probably good on that. I think that's about it from that game for me.
All right, moving on our way down here. Saints Vikings again. Dobbs back in as a quarterback here. Vikings are only getting 2.5. I think feels a little low. I like the Saints defense. Taysom Hill continues to score touchdowns. Threw for a touchdown, ran for a touchdown, caught a touchdown and threw for a touchdown in this last game here. You just got to play him at this point as much as it pains you.
Yeah, anyone that watched that, they basically gave Alvin Kamara one chance. They said you have one chance to score here, and then it's Taysom time. And Kamara ran it, got tackled at like the 1. And they said it's Taysom no matter what. So they put Taysom in. He tried to run it. He got stuffed. And then they turned around and threw it to him. It's like he's a one-man red zone machine. And if they're going to keep doing it like that, and especially if he's going to get a couple targets here and there, got to move him up. I mean, there's no real way to rank him outside the top 10, 15 at the deepest. I know some people are ranking him like top 5. I think that's a little much. If Juwan Johnson was still out, then we could probably talk top 5. But right now, after the elite guys that we know are going to get targets, at a certain point, you just say, all right, I might as well do it after.
My problem is it's not even targets anymore. Like, I don't care if he gets targets. Right, he's getting 5 red zone carries, right? Like, that's more important. So,
but you have to get to the red zone. Like, it's not every game do you have that opportunity.
Sure. I mean, the Saints offense moves the ball pretty well, but I largely agree with you. But it's super. They signed Jamal Williams. They don't even use them. They don't use Alvin Kamara, and they take Derek Carr off the field. When they're inside the 5, it's Taysom Hill. So
and Carr, I mean, like he did throw a touchdown to Chris Olave, but that's the thing is that they're not really scoring with big strikes. So if you are dinking and dunking it to Michael Thomas and everybody and Kamara all the way down the field,
Thomas had 1 target last week. Where was that guy?
I don't know, dude. What the heck? He's been all year. He's been peppered. He just disappears.
So Saints, I think, are hard to judge. You can still play Alvin Kamara, but obviously the touchdowns there for Taysom a little tough to swallow. Viking situation. Thoughts with KJ Osborne if he sits? They have Powell, obviously caught that game-winning touchdown. They activated Johnson. They have some other guys maybe moving in. Any interest there for against the Saints this week?
I mean, not really. I guess I'll probably bet some props on Brandon Powell. But I'm not going to put him in any lineups. But I think that we'll see what the numbers say. We got smoked on doing that with Van Jefferson though last week, so we always got to be careful. But Marshawn Lattimore on Addison, whoever else is out there, I think is in a decent spot.
Yeah, and then obviously the Cam Akers torn Achilles, Alexander Madison should go back to getting pretty much all the workload. Yep. Go pick up Tyson Chandler there if he's available, just as a handcuff, but kind of is what it is on that situation. 49ers, Jacksonville. Next one, Jacksonville at home getting 3. Christian McCaffrey, both these teams coming off a bye. Christian McCaffrey obviously continues to be a monster. Deebo Samuel potentially back. Say Jones back. How are we breaking down this one here?
I think CMC is the good chalk in DFS because, earlier in the year, Shanahan said he doesn't want to use him a ton. They're going to find ways to mix other guys in. Last 2 games before the bye, CMC played every snap except 2. And the Jaguars this year are letting up 7.5 receptions per game to running backs, which is the best. That's the most in the league by far. So CMC in DFS. I think even if it's a good run defense, which that's what it's funny. That's what DraftKings stuff will show. But in reality, he's probably going to catch so many passes that he's going to be great. So, and then you know what to do with Kittle and Ayuk and Debo for the most part. On the Jaguar side, Zay Jones being back could throw a wrench into things, but you're still starting Evan Engram where you have him. My question for you, John: do you like Christian Kirk this week? Or do you like Calvin Ridley this week?
I'll have to defer to Bender. What kind of defense do they play? Are they a zone or a man team here?
Yeah, well, we'll check with him. We got the show coming up next. I want to see his thoughts on that because
we know Kirk. They said thrives versus man coverage. Ridley's better
right.
against zone. So
right, exactly.
So we're at there.
We'll check with Ben Dorino.
Yeah, Packers, Steelers giving 3. Aaron Jones, they said was going to be unleashed. Unleashed he was. Steelers do not have a great run defense, and we know the Packers pass offense kind of sucks. So you have to think a heavy dose of Aaron Jones is on the way.
Steelers giving up 133 yards per game on the ground. That's like the 4th most. So yeah, Aaron Jones definitely smash spot for him. We got to see what's going on with Christian Watson before we make decisions on all these other guys, because when Watson's out earlier this year, we saw when Watson was out, Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed, Luke Musgrave, they were all viable. But if Watson plays, now it's a little too thin. But I'm starting to wonder if maybe Watson, like sometimes you have a player like Watson, and there's a lot of pressure to get him the football, and I wonder if that's kind of in Jordan Love's head, that he's like, I have to take shots downfield now. I have to get this guy the ball.
If they could just expand Christian Watson's route tree, it'd be a lot easier for everybody, but they don't.
It was
just run straight. So
when they were dinking Duncan earlier in the year without Watson, and Dontavian Wicks was out there, like the offense actually looked better.
Agreed. Deontay Johnson, clearly number 1. That's not even a question anymore. Pickens is great while he was out, but Deontay is the GOAT here, getting all the targets, making all the plays. I have to look at what his yardage prop is going to be again this week, but we're probably going to be looking at the over on that one. The running back situation, both running backs scored. Both running backs continue to look good. I think you just play them both at this point. Obviously, not going to bench Najee, and Warren's probably a flex play in most leagues at this point.
Absolutely. And I will just add on this team that Connor Hayward, for a couple of weeks there, he was running a ton of routes. This past week, I think his poor blocking is catching up with him, and they used a little more Darnell Washington. Now, Washington only ran 10 routes, but he played a lot of, additional plays that were run plays and things like that, and pass blocking plays. So Hayward only ran 20 of 30 routes.
Yeah.
We only liked this guy if he was going to run like all the routes. So now we're just done. No Connor Hayward.
Agreed. Browns, Ravens here. Ravens are giving 6 at home. That feels like maybe a little bit too much if the Browns defense shows up here. 37.5 game total. Another reason maybe to like the Browns if they're not expecting a lot of points to be scored. You get into a field goal game here. I think that's possible. Deshaun looked good, but you have to take the matchup into account. Arizona's defense is pretty trash. Ravens, they're just running the football on everybody right now, but you're not going to be able to run on Cleveland, I don't think. So be very curious to see how Baltimore's offense handles this Browns defense this week.
Yeah, I don't usually I like to bet props because we do so much fantasy football that we have extra information there. But I actually am going to take the Browns to cover the 6. I don't know if I think the Ravens are better than the Browns, but are they a touchdown better than the Browns? I don't know.
I don't feel so. They played some close games against better teams. They've obviously beaten the bad teams, but better teams, they've played some close games. Divisional games are always generally played pretty close. We just know each other. And again, the Browns defense is one of the best in football. So I do worry a little bit here on Baltimore, especially on only a 37.5 game total. That a low total and a 6 spread feels Brownsy to me.
I'll tell you this I want to throw one more thing out for Browns. Cedric Tillman. They traded Donovan Peoples-Jones away.
Yeah.
DPJ was doing nothing. Tillman picked up all those snaps. Now he didn't really do anything because
much like DBJ wasn't doing anything.
Much like DBJ. And that's probably what they said, is that they said, hey, if this guy's going to do nothing, we got plenty of guys that can do nothing. So they traded him away, got something back for him. Cedric Tillman, though, I mean, just by the nature of it, playing a monster snap share makes him kind of like a DFS dart throw, where what if he does catch the big one? And it's a 50-yard touchdown, and he's dirt cheap. So Cedric Tillman, a guy to think about maybe in DFS.
Sure. Running back situation again with the Browns. Both Hunt and Ford got double-digit carries again. I had the over 9.5 carries for Kareem Hunt last week. That one cashed. He found the end zone again as well. Kareem Hunt continues to be a goal line threat for Cleveland. So if they do get in the red zone, you got to think the Ravens are going to be there. Speaking of the Baltimore Ravens running back, though, Keaton Mitchell finally broke out. Do we think he has an actual path to consistent playing time, Coop?
I'll tell you, at this stage, we got to take any shots we can. So many things are already settled. If you have any shot at uncertainty, especially with a guy as fast as Keaton Mitchell, you got to take your stabs. So he's definitely worth adding if I know he's a popular waiver pick, so he's probably already picked up
Yeah.
overnight. But if he's out there, it's worth adding these guys because there's so few spots where it's like somebody could break out and be the next guy.
Anybody with a pulse is someone you want to have on your roster at this point.
Got to running back, wide receiver, all of them. Because you got to remember, I mean, I'm on Ross St. Brown as a rookie through 10 weeks, and then through the last 11.
Agreed. Texans, Bengals given 6.5 at the 48 game total here since he at home. Listen, we love what we saw of CJ Stroud, obviously last week, 470 yards, 5 touchdowns, but he left a stinker on the field against Carolina the week before that. They're back on the road here against Cincinnati, a defense we think is pretty exploitable given their poor secondary here. I'm going to throw CJ Stroud in some lineups for DFS this week, but this is, for me, this is a prove-it week. If he can take a step forward against Joe Burrow, one of the best quarterbacks in football, who's looking like one of the best quarterbacks in football, and the Texans can make this a competitive game, I think we could really put Houston on the map here.
Yeah, I'm liking this one. I wish this was a 4:00 game because, like, I want to have
watch it, is what you're saying.
Yeah. It's like both teams are trending up at the right time. If we can get the Texans from last week and the Bengals the way they've been playing, man, this could be a really good.
They're feeding us Dallas Giants this week, unfortunately, Coop. So
right, gross.
It's gonna be a bloodshed.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Dalton Schultz is a guy this week. Great matchup versus the Bengals. Get him in there, use him in DFS. Down the stretch, his schedule gets pretty bad, especially in fantasy playoffs. We talked about the Titans. We'll see with the Titans, right? Whether they are a good defense versus the tight end or not. Got a big test versus Evan Engram coming up in a week from now. But his schedule goes Titans, Browns, Titans in the playoffs. So if that first Titans game is bad, then you better have another option because you're not going to start him against the Browns so that you can start him again against the Titans, right? So Dalton Schultz, be very careful with him. If I have him, I'm starting him this week, but I have another guy on the bench that I'm kind of stashing just in case.
Agreed. Any thoughts? Any more thoughts on this one?
I mean, the Bengals, we know exactly who they are, which is great. Yep. You know who the fantasy assets are. Don't worry about the tight ends. So you start Mixon because he's the starting running back for the Bengals, and you start Higgins and you start Chase and you use Boyd if you have to. That's a simple team.
Agreed. Next game here on the slate, 4:00 Lions, Chargers getting 2.5 at home. I mean, again, matchup here that we have with them. Secondary wide receivers for Chargers. What are we doing?
Yeah, that's the real question of the day. And Quentin Johnson kind of has to be added if Josh Palmer's going to be on IR. He's moved to IR here, and Gerald Everett. They always want to force Gerald Everett in there and say, "Oh, this guy's hurt, that guy's hurt." Going back to last year, right, where they missed half the season with Mike Williams, half the season with Keenan Allen. This year, Mike Williams has been gone for most of the season, right? This guy's played 23 games. Gerald Everett has. And he's only played more than 70% of the snaps in 3 of those games. This is a part-time player. They like Parham. They like mixing Stone Smart in. Like, no matter what has happened, we had a bunch of games last year with no Keenan Allen or Mike Williams, and he still did not play a full snap share. Right. Like he has never played 80% of the snaps for this team. He rarely plays 70. So just be careful with Gerald Everett. He's like a boring option.
Sure. Cool. Some quick thoughts in these final games here. Remember, our long fantasy football coming up next, so don't leave the channel. Falcons, Cardinals, biggest takeaway here, Coop.
Biggest takeaway is that Bijan Robinson, the best decoy in the league.
The best decoy in the league. Kyle Murray also.
Kyle Murray might be back. James Conner might be back. So
Trey McBride continues to thrive. Giants, Cowboys. Cowboys are giving 16.5. Tommy Vito, your starter. They won. Cowboys won this game, 40-0 on week 1 here. So probably much more of the same. CeeDee Lamb can't be stopped. Dak Prescott continues to find a ton of success right now. That Giants secondary stands no chance here.
I'm just worried that the backups are going to be in fairly early for the Cowboys. That's the worry. So I don't know, man. Like, people will say, "Oh yeah, Tony Pollard's going to crush." It's like maybe Rico Dowdle is going to crush.
Yeah, I mean, very, very possible this week. Probably a good, with all the bye weeks, maybe a good spot to give him a look here this week. Commanders, Seahawks given 6.5. Sam Howell averaging like 40 pass attempts a game at this point.
Crazy, man. He has 46 more dropbacks than any other quarterback. That's almost a full game worth of dropbacks. Like, and the second quarterback is Patrick Mahomes. It's like these Andy Reid coaching tree, they just like huck it, chuck it football. Let's go, baby. And I love that for fantasy football. So I hope they never stop. I'm interested on the Seahawks side. The game script got away from them last week in a blowout. So they went a lot of 11 personnel. So you saw a lot of JSN. and they used a lot of Charbonnet because he's kind of the pass catching back. I want to see how that holds and what that looks like in a game where they're favored. So
Sure.
I want to see how much JSN, I want to see how much Charbs. We could learn a lot here. And if those guys play a lot and they're committed to that down the stretch, that's what we look for. Rookies that are just getting a bigger workload down the stretch.
Sure. Jets, Raiders getting 1.5 at 36.5 game total. We know the Jets defense obviously is really good. That offense was terrible against the Chargers. Do we think the Raiders can win back-to-back games here?
No, I like the Jets defense is great. All the offenses to do is something, and I think that they can against this team. So you start the Jets defense, you start Garrett Wilson, you start Breece Hall. That's it. And the same thing on the other side. You start Josh Jacobs, you start Devontae Adams, you start Jacoby Myers, and that's it. Michael Mayer is just not playing enough. He only ran 15 routes. There's 6 fantasy relevant players in this game. Those are them. Those are the guys.
Yep, I agree with you there. Final thoughts. Last game on the slate here: Broncos, Bills. Bills given 7.5 at home.
Yeah, the Broncos are in big trouble. So the Jets Raiders game makes sense to me in terms of like being a primetime game because it was supposed to be Rodgers, and you have to give the Raiders some sort of primetime game. This one, I don't know. I don't know what they were expecting. Sean Payton to just
Well,
turn
I mean, they
everything
thought the
around.
Broncos would be better. Yeah, with Sean Payton.
I guess so,
The
yeah.
Bills secondary is not good. Broncos
Nah.
could throw on Buffalo in this game. So given 7.5, I kind of like Denver plus the 7.5 here. Coming off of a bye week for them, I think Denver getting the points is a good pick here.
Absolutely. And again, another just Kincaid, the timing is perfect. Sometimes you get the starter gets hurt and then it's bad matchups. The opposite happened here. The starter got hurt and Kincaid just lucked his way into a bunch of amazing matchups. So
Agreed. All right, everybody, go stay with the channel here. Click the link in the chat. Alarm Fantasy Football coming up next with Coop and Howard Bender. Good luck in your week 9. Catch us Sunday mornings. I'll be there 9 to 10 with Britt Flynn, 10 to 11 Coop and Bender on Sirius XM. Come right back here 11 to 12. Myself and Andrew Cooper taking you through NFL inactives. Good luck in week 10, everybody. We'll talk to you later.